along the way. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's gardening series lecture. We are here to talk about Reminiscence Gardening. Reminiscence Gardening is an award-winning public outreach program of the UCSD Master Gardener Association of San Diego County. It engages participants in tabletop gardening and sensory experiences. Joining us today are Debbie Handal and Diane Woodward. Diane and Debbie are trained and certified Master Gardeners through the University of California Cooperative Extension San Diego County Master Gardener Program. They have 5 years of hands-on experience working with caregivers, staff members, and residents at memory care communities throughout San Diego County and Alzheimer's San Diego. Thank you so much, Diane and Debbie, for joining us.
Thanks for the great introduction. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us today as a part of your program. As I prepared for the presentation this morning, I took a quick peek at your YouTube channel, and what a great library of information and presentations you have out there. I even noticed that there were a few other Master Gardener presentations that had been posted as well. On the off chance that some of you may not know what Reminiscence Gardening is, or who Master Gardeners are, let me talk about a little bit of history. Debbie, can you start the slides? Yeah. You can advance to next slide. There we go. The program started in 1983, and it's grown to about 300 members. We are volunteers that are trained and supervised by the University of California Cooperative Extension, and they provide the research-based information that we use to take out to the public on things like integrated pest management and home horticulture. Information that covers everything from growing fruit trees in your backyard to vegetable gardening to helping you identify that creepy crawler that you found on your rose bush. To ensure that the Master Gardeners are kept up to date, we do commit to 12 hours of continuing education and 25 hours every year of volunteer time. You might see us at the Del Mar Fairgrounds or your local library or farmers market. Plus, we also host a daily hotline where you can call or you can email your gardening questions, and you'll find a wealth of information on our website. Next slide, please. This is a graphic from our website, and it's called Let's Grow Together San Diego. And if you click on any one of the tomatoes, the link will take you to specific information about that topic.
Sorry.
That's okay.
There we go.
There we go. So for instance, there's information about our public outreach programs like school gardens, where there's youth activities and curriculum. There's video how-tos. There's information on community gardens. And the one that probably gets the most use is the pest notes. It's where you can find a variety of information from the UC on how to manage pests in your garden. Next slide. Reminiscence Gardening is a program that was created as a public outreach service to our community. Its primary focus is folks with Alzheimer's and related dementias. The purpose of the program is really to help them stay connected, to give them an opportunity to reduce some stress, maybe build some confidence, to communicate and converse, and to just in general support a healthy lifestyle. So the activities that we are going to share with you today are on our website, and you can download them. They're all printable activities, and they can be used also with a wide variety of people with disabilities, not just folks with Alzheimer's and dementia. So with caregiver assistance, each gardener can enjoy a relaxing, hands-on gardening activity that's sure to relieve stress and promote conversation and relaxation and provide that sense of accomplishment. We have a short video that we'd like to show to you this morning that really gets to the heart of what reminiscence gardening is.
The UCCE Master Gardener Program and the Master Gardener Association of San Diego County presents Reminiscence Gardening. Flowers always make people better, happier, and more helpful. They are the sunshine, food, and medicine to the soul. Luther Burbank. Approximately 5.8 million Americans have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and that number will almost triple by mid-century. The Reminiscence Gardening Program helps meet some of the needs of this underserved population. The program provides a tabletop gardening experience for individuals living with dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, in a memory care community setting. The goal is to stimulate the minds, bodies, and spirits regardless of their physical and mental condition. Familiar smells, sights, and textures can inspire memories of participants' own garden experiences. The hands-on approach supports a healthy lifestyle by improving energy levels, reducing stress, building confidence, and giving residents a renewed sense of purpose. The Reminiscence Gardening team, made up of volunteer master gardeners, engage participants in a way that encourages social interaction and promotes relaxation. Activity number 1, sensory exploration. In this activity, residents explore various herbs, fruits, vegetables, and garden cuttings to activate different senses like sight, touch, and smell. Puzzles, seed packs, books, and vintage tools are shared to gently guide the participants to pleasant memories that might include being in their garden, outside in the fresh air, or picking their favorite fruits. Activity number 2, tabletop gardening. Tabletop gardening is an activity where participants create a garden in a pot, pumpkin, or other container. Guided by master gardeners, the residents choose flowers and adornments to arrange however they like. The activity facilitates eye-hand coordination and creative expression. The memory care community residents who participate in these activities experience a rekindling of pleasant garden memories and are able to retune gardening skills within their abilities. The residents will take these creations back to their rooms to enjoy long after the activity ends. The planted garden pots bring smiles to the faces of the participants, as well as the volunteers, caregivers, and the facility staff members. In March of 2018, 4 Master Gardeners facilitated a group activity for 30 participants at Alzheimer's San Diego. Since then, nearly 50 Master Gardeners have successfully facilitated 35 activities at 9 different residential memory care communities, reaching nearly 1,000 staff members, caregivers, individuals living with dementia, and their family members. Every Reminiscent Gardening team member brings their unique approach to the program to make these experiences memorable to both volunteers and their garden partners. The Reminiscence Gardening program was founded by 2 extraordinary women and continues to grow, bringing joy and purpose to thousands of people's lives. Reminiscence Gardening is a public outreach program of the UCCE Master Gardener Program of San Diego County. For more information on this program, visit the website at www.mastergardenersd.org and select it from the Programs menu. Reminiscence Gardening, a video by C. Brown. Heart to Heart soundtrack by C. Brown. Special thanks to Active Care 4S Ranch. Video clips provided by Anthology Films. This film is a Black Swan Ranch Studios production.
Thank you, Debbie. The video just really gets to the heart of what Reminiscence Gardening is all about. Today, Debbie and I are going to share a couple of the activities that you saw in the video. We will lean into the specifics of the activity, and you will see that they can be fun and enjoyable way to spend an afternoon with your grandchildren or an aging parent, or give yourself a much needed respite from the day-to-day of stresses of life. Whether you have a small patio, no patio, or lots of room to roam, tabletop gardening will give you a boost of horticultural therapy. Debbie, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you, Diane. What a lovely introduction to what Master Gardeners do and the Reminiscence Gardening program. So thank you very much. And thank you to all of you for having us today. These activity guides are just wonderful. As Diane said, they're good for anyone. If you are recently retired, you might be thinking, how can I spend more time with my current hobbies? Or perhaps I could start some new hobbies. Maybe learn Italian or take up banjo lessons or something that you've been thinking about for a long time. But one thing that often happens after retirement is we are very busy, busier than ever, and we don't exactly have as much time as we thought we were going to. And you might even wonder how you ever had time for your career. But we're here to show you that these activities will be simple and rewarding and something that you will have time to do. So we're very proud of the fact that our activities on the website are listed in English, Spanish, and Tagalog. So it's open to a very diverse population who can participate. And the 4 activity guides listed on our website are the succulent garden that you see up in the middle of the photo here. It has sand and rocks and seashells and succulent cuttings. And we hope that that will stimulate memories of a trip to the beach, which is very common here in San Diego. And then moving over to growing microgreens. This is a wonderful activity. It's very visual. You plant the seeds and you will see the roots start to grow. You will see the greens sprout out, and it's very satisfying. Down in the lower right corner, this is a photo of a sensory exploration where we have a lot of cuttings on the table for our activities. And we engage folks by having them touch, smell, listen to, perhaps even taste some of the items that were on the table there. And then this cheerful little scarecrow here is tabletop planting. We do this seasonally, so you can see that this was probably an autumn activity. We put what we call garden bling into the pots, and we mark them with the care partner's name. So I'm going to take you through a tabletop planting activity. So potting plants is very relaxing, enjoyable, and it's rewarding. It can calm your mood. There is a lot of research-based information out there that tells us that putting your hands in the soil can be healthy for you. So all of the items that you would need to do a potting activity are listed here. The tidy tray is this black tray you see in the photo. It's perfect for folks who have some limited mobility. You can easily sit at the table in a wheelchair and use this tray because it's very shallow in the front, and then it goes up in the back to hold all of your supplies. So we've got gloves and soil. We've got our plants ready here. This pot is an 8-inch plastic pot. We have a coffee filter. I'll explain what that's for in a minute. A trowel, a little plastic saucer there to catch the water, a watering can. My garden art is in the tray, and a namesake. So potting is easy as 1, 2, 3. There are holes in the bottom of the pot so that the water will drain out. If you've ever watered one of your potted plants and it smells a little bit like sulfur, it's probably your plant's way of telling you that it needs more air and less water. There's a little anaerobic activity going on in there. And so we want to make sure that the water can drain out of the pot. The coffee filter in the middle there is so that it retains the soil. We want the water to drain, but we want the soil to stay in. So that coffee filter will allow that to happen, for the water to go right through. And to get started, you will want to fill your pot with about halfway full with soil. So this is not something new to master gardeners. You maybe have heard about thrillers, fillers, and spillers. So, but it's something that I'm using as an example here. And that is, the thriller is the first plant that you want to put into your pot. In this case, I used a large rosemary. So it's probably out of a 4-inch pot. And it's the first one that I put in here. And now I'm going to start putting in the filler plants, which my next plant that I chose was a mint. Now, both of these are very sensory oriented. You can smell them. It's just so delightful to actually go through the steps with these fragrant plants. And I encourage you to stop and ask yourself, how does it look? How does it smell? How does it feel? Is there a difference in the soil in your pot that feels different than the soil that is around the base of the plant? So take your time while you're doing this potting activity. And next, I'm going to talk about teasing roots. This plant I've selected here as another filler is a Dusty Miller. It's a wonderful sensory plant. It's very soft and fuzzy, like a stuffed animal's ear, a lamb's ear. And it's beautiful. I love the way the colors are different depending on the angles that you look at it. So after I take it out of the pot, it's a little too big for my 8-inch pot. So we're going to tease the roots out. I've removed the bottom third of the soil. And then in the last photo, you can see that the roots are slightly exposed. So I've kind of teased away the soil to expose those roots to give them a little bit better chance of surviving inside the pot and for them to take off. Okay, so you can see in the photos here, I've got my rosemary, I've done my fillers, I've got Dusty Miller, I've also tucked in a beautiful yellow marigold, and I've got my mint. So the last thing I need is a spiller. And the spiller I've chosen here is a Calibrachoa. It's purple and beautiful. It is a plant that likes to grow down and dangle down. So it would be nice in a hanging pot. It would be nice sitting on the edge of your counter or your patio table. It grows quickly and it is really a spectacular plant. A quick word here about annuals versus perennials. The annual plants I've selected here are the rosemary, the lavender and the mint, and even the Dusty Miller. Those are the perennial plants. They will come back year after year. If you cut them back, they will survive. And as opposed to the annuals, which are the Calibrachoa and the marigold. We're lucky here in San Diego County, as our seasons and our climates are long and extended, and we get good life out of our annuals. So that's a little bit of the difference between an annual and a perennial plant. Okay, so my plants are in. I add a little bit of soil. I gently press down. You want to be very careful not to break any of the stems. You want to be careful not to punch down too hard. So I kind of think about playing the piano as I go around and very gently tamp down the soil, and I give it a little drink of water. And a reminder again, not to drown your plants. You can invest in a moisture meter, It's something that's available at most nurseries and big box stores, or even online. You can get them for less than $10. It's a really wonderful garden tool to let you know whether it's time to water your plants or not. And now I'm adding a little bit of decoration. When I did these pots, it was springtime, so I added a little sprig here. And voila, there you go. It's all put together. It's very simple. Anyone can do this at any age. It's something I could do with older adults, something I could do with my children, my grandchildren. And I guarantee you that this makes a really lovely hostess gift. When you arrive at someone's house and you bring in this beautiful potted pot of plants that you have put together yourself, it will be just as thoughtful as a bottle of wine or perhaps a bouquet of flowers. But when you tell your host and hostess that you made it yourself, they will be very impressed with your work here. So a little bit about sensory exploration. This is an important part of the Reminiscence Gardening program and activity. We bring plant cuttings and we put them on the table, and this is how we initially engage our garden partners to see how they're feeling for the day, how involved they want to be. It's an opportunity to get to know them if we haven't met them yet before, and every day brings something different. So these plant cuttings can be anything that is safe and non-toxic, of course, no needles, no sap, no thorns. Roses are beautiful, but we have to make sure that they're clean and safe. And we also include seasonal fruits and vegetables. Sometimes we'll slice open a fruit and everyone gets a taste. So we're really trying to tickle their memories. We're trying to stimulate their senses with all these cuttings and fruits and vegetables. We use a lot of scented herbs. You can see in this photo that this woman has picked up this lavender and she's taking a big whiff of it. And eyes are closed and she's really enjoying it. And hopefully thinking back to perhaps having it in her garden at one time or another. And a lot of times we know we're making a connection just by facial expressions. It may not be someone's verbal cues, but we are looking for facial expressions. We also use puzzles, and they are large piece puzzles that are dedicated for folks who have a cognitive impairment. They're gardening photos. They're beautiful. We have some that are wheelbarrows. We have some with cats in the garden or lotus ponds. And some folks will surprise us with how they have still retained the ability to do these puzzles. They're available online, and they come in 13 pieces or 24 pieces, and they're just a really wonderful tool to have for reminiscence gardening. And we use vintage garden tools. They are often a little bit rusty. They've got some tactile sensation to them. I'll tell you a quick story about a gentleman at one of our Alzheimer's San Diego activities. He was non-participatory for the day and nonverbal. He was with his care partner, but he was very quietly sitting to the side and not engaged at all. However, when we put an old hose nozzle in his hand, he came to life. He started to smile and he was mimicking the sound of water coming out of the hose nozzle. So that was the connection for the day. We realized that he now was engaged, and that might have been it for him for the day, but we're just as satisfied knowing that he made such a good connection. So we also include seed packages. They're vibrant, they're beautiful in color. You can feel the teeny tiny size of a seed for carrots, or you can feel a thick bulbous seed for perhaps sweet peas. So we often shake them so that the garden partners can hear them. We invite them to feel the different sizes. And we also use flower catalogs, plant catalogs. You can see this gentleman here in the photo. That was his engagement for the day. He wanted to go through that catalog back and forth and forth and back, over and over, and he just loved it. We actually left it with him because he enjoyed it so much. So if you look at this beautiful photo here, it has a lot of the cuttings that we use. There's cherry tomatoes in there, lemon verbena, Tacoma is the bright orange. We have some scented geraniums, and we've got everything in here that is pleasant for sight, for smell, for touch. And it really does stimulate the senses, not only for our garden partners, but it could be for anyone. We're not only dealing with folks who are living in the memory care communities, but this is also really engaging and stimulating for staff members and for family members that are visiting. And this is an important part of our activity. The photo on the right was taken at an activity where the garden partner, the master gardener, and the garden partner were working together, and the resident was Italian. She spoke very little English, and there was a little bit of a challenge for the master gardener and the garden partner to speak to each other. However, we noticed that the garden partner started to gather things off of the cutting table, and she grabbed this fig leaf and she stuffed it with some herbs and some woolly bush, and then she started to stitch it closed with the dried lavender stem. So she created this little sachet that really surprised us and blew our minds. We just couldn't believe what a beautiful thing she had put together. And then it was especially nice to learn later that she actually did speak English, and she was just keeping that part to herself. And then she impressed us with this beautiful sachet. So I am going to turn it back over to Diane, who is going to take you through a wonderful activity for seed starting and growing microgreens. And she is going to share this lovely activity with you. So enjoy. Thank you very much. You're muted, Diane.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Debbie. That was an amazing presentation. I really just love hearing the stories about the care partners that come to life sometimes when we're there working with them. Now I'm going to talk about seeds. So you've been talking about plants, but for me, seeds are like these amazing little bundles of energy. They're just waiting for the right conditions to bust out. And this activity of growing microgreens from seed is fast and easy, and they're super nutritious. Plus, it just becomes a really fun activity that you can do with the whole family. The supplies, like you see here on the slide, are pretty straightforward. You don't need any expensive tools, just some really basic household items. I like to use the clear plastic food containers from my favorite takeout place. They usually come with a lid, which is kind of nice, so I just wash it out really well. You need a small bag of soil, which is usually about $5. I think you can pick them up at some of the big box stores for that. And some seeds, also at the big box stores or garden centers. And the seeds generally run maybe $3 to $4. You can use lots of different kinds of seeds. You can use herbal seeds like basil, or vegetable seeds like beets. I like to make a special mix of salad greens. So I'll take different kinds of lettuces and blend those packets of seeds together. So the other thing that you need to help scatter the seeds is a shaker jar. And you can use, like in this photo here, there's a little spice container that I had that I finished up the spices and I washed it out, and the holes in the top are just the perfect size to let the seeds shake through. You'll need a paper towel and some water. So this can be a really good sensory activity too. When you're putting to begin with, you're going to put by filling your plastic container with soil. So you want to fill it about 1/2 to 3/4 full of soil. And the main thing is to be sure that the soil is level. So that's why it's kind of nice to be able to use the plastic containers, the clear ones, so that you can see. So just take your hand and pat the soil gently down. Don't compress it, just pat it. You just want to be sure that it's nice and level. Once you've got your soil in place, then you want to take the shaker jar and fill it with your seeds. Be sure the lid is on good and tight. You don't want them to all spill out at once. And really cover the soil. Just blanket the soil with the seeds. It's okay if they're touching. It's okay if they're kind of over top of each other. You don't want a thick layer upon layer, but you do want a nice, even, generous layer of seeds on the top of the soil. Then you're going to moisten it. So you can use the spray nozzle from your kitchen sink because it's probably convenient. Or you can use like an old condiment bottle from ketchup or something like that that you've rinsed out, and you can squirt the water on it. If you get too much water in it, it's okay. You can invert the lid and pour off the extra water. If you hold the lid tight to the seeds, they won't float away. So don't worry too much about the extra water. You don't want holes in this container. Like Debbie was explaining earlier, the holes in a pot of plants is necessary because you need that water to drain off. But the seeds don't yet have roots. So they're going to want the moisture in the soil. And so I suggest not putting any holes in the bottom. It reduces the amount of time and energy you have to spend on watering. So once you've got your soil in place, you've got your seed coated on top of the soil, you've moistened it a little bit, take your paper towel and fold it to the size of the container and just lay it gently on top of the seeds. Go back with your water and really dampen the paper towel. Just make sure it's sopping wet. And then you can lightly put the lid of your container on. You don't have to press it down, but just lightly cover it. And place the container in a warm place, not in direct sun. The seeds aren't ready for direct sun yet, and not on a warm surface. But I like to use my kitchen counter because my kitchen tends to be a warm room. It's got the southern exposure, although it doesn't have the direct sun. And it really helps the container create a little greenhouse effect. So it keeps the seeds moist and it keeps them warm. So in this picture, you will see on the left-hand side, after about 4 or 5 days, I lifted the paper towel and we'll take a peek at the seeds. And so in this photo on the left, your seeds may look something like this. These seeds are basil seeds. So they look a little maybe dark and purpley in color. That's because that's the way they look. And they're looking pretty good. In the photo on the right, you can see how quickly the seeds are starting to grow. This is only a few hours, I would say maybe 5 to 6 hours after I removed the cover. They started to get the light. They really started to send out those fine root hairs. And that's what you're seeing in this photo, if you can see it well enough. There are some like white fuzzy or gray fuzzy areas. And it looks like maybe it's mold, but really it's the fine seed hairs, those initial hairs that are just starting to pop out from the seed sprout. So those are all okay. The first time I did this and I pulled up the paper towel and I looked at my seeds, and a few hours later, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is all moldy. And I was ready to just toss it in the compost pile. And I talked to another master gardener and she said, no. She said, those are just those fine initial root hairs that come out. So if you could go on to the next slide, Debbie. So you want to be sure to keep the soil moist once you remove the paper towel. And maybe once a day, be sure you give it a little spritz of water, sometimes twice a day if it's really warm or it's really warm in your house where you have them. And you can move them to a sunnier location. Again, I wouldn't put them in direct sun, but you can move them to where they get a bit more sunlight. So in this photo on the left, you can see the other cool thing about using growing microgreens in a clear container is that you can observe the growth, both the top growth and the bottom growth. So the photo on the left here is a really clear view of the roots of the sprouts, and these are about 4 days old. So it doesn't take much time for the sprouts to really start to look like mini plants. Next slide, please. So when those sprouts are about, I would say maybe 3 inches tall, they're ready to harvest. I just take a clean pair of scissors and just cut what I'll use for that day. You kind of just grab them up like you would a clump of hair and cut it off above the roots. You don't want to pull it out of the soil because you don't want to get the soil onto the sprouts. You really just want the part that you're going to eat. You hold it up and cut across those sprouts. Once you've trimmed them, you can put them in a fine sieve or strainer, or I just basically hold them in my hand under some running water in the kitchen sink. And then I use a paper towel or a clean, dry linen towel, and to pat them dry before I put them on what I'm going to eat. The sprout growth that's left from the cutting, those will not regrow, but the other sprouts will continue to grow, and you can harvest those for a week or more, unless you're just really big into sprouts and you want to harvest them all at one time. And then you can rinse them and dry them and put them in your refrigerator for a few days. They will keep in the fridge for a few days in a plastic bag. Next slide. So now that you've harvested and you can enjoy the fruits of your labor, I like to add the microgreens to salads. Here you can see in the photo on the right, I've added them to my my lunch salad for the day. It's caprese salad with mozzarella cheese and chopped tomatoes with a little bit of basil sprouts on it, some olive oil. That's delish. And the other choice is I didn't have any salad greens that day, lettuce. So I used the sprouts to dress up my sandwich. So I think you can find lots of great ways to enjoy the healthful benefits of these little powerhouses. Next slide, please. So the photo on the left really just kind of recaps what we've been talking about in terms of doing your microgreens, growing your microgreens. You can see the clear plastic container with the soil and my paper towel resting on top, my condiment bottle that I rinsed out and I'm using it for my water source, and my shaker jar. And then on the right-hand side, this is really about growing seeds to plant out in your garden. So lots of ways you can do this. And now that you've had success with growing some of your microgreens, you can easily really move on to growing other types or sprouting other types of seeds to go out in the garden. I like to use low cost or no cost ways to do these. And I will take a fiber egg carton, which is what this is here in the photo on the right. My other favorite thing for larger seeds is to use toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls that you cut to 3 or 4 inches tall. So they come in really handy, and they really work well for seed starting, and you'll get that a little bit more as we move along here. So first thing you want to do is use your seed starting mix or potting soil in the egg carton and into the toilet paper rolls. And you don't want to compact the soil. You want the soil to be really loose and kind of fluffy. You will lightly moisten it, not get it soaking wet, but lightly moisten it. And then you can press your seeds into the soil. And the seeds need to be planted to a specific depth depending upon the size of the seed. So if you look at the back side of your seed packet, it will tell you how deep you need to plant the seeds. So some seeds like tomato seeds aren't very big. So they basically just need to be, you can just gently put them on top of the soil, then put a thin layer of your potting soil on top of that. With other seeds, larger seeds like squash or pumpkin, they're going to need to be embedded a little bit deeper in the soil, usually about the same size as the seed is. So that if the seed is a 1/2 inch, you want to push it into the soil about a 1/2 inch and then cover it with your potting soil. So I usually put 2 or 3 seeds per cell in the egg carton and 2 or 3 seeds in each of the toilet paper rolls. So once I've got my seeds in place and I put a light layer of soil on top, I go back and moisten the whole thing. You want to be sure that you keep the soil moist. You don't want it to be wringing wet, but you do want to keep it moist. So it may require you having to mist or water a couple times a day. You keep them in a warm place, not a sunny, bright sunny place. Again, they're not ready for the sun. And in this situation, you'll see I used just an old cookie sheet that I had, and I covered it with foil. And I put my egg carton on top of that to catch whatever extra moisture from my spraying or watering might seep out through the porous egg carton. And same with the toilet paper rolls. I just take a plastic bowl or dish and stand them up in that. And that way that helps keep the water from going all over my counter. Next slide, please. So here's the results. On the left, these are the tomato sprouts. After 2 weeks, you can see that I planted 2 seeds per cell in this. And now it's basically time to select the strongest of the 2. So what I'll go do is take my scissors again and cut the weaker plant off at the soil level so that the remaining seedling has access to all the nutrients and water. On the right-hand side, you'll see pumpkin sprouts. I love to grow pumpkins. They are such fun plants and they grow really quick. With these, again, I planted 2, I think I just planted 2 seeds per roll here. And you can see my germination rate wasn't as good. One roll there is empty. I haven't got anything sprouting there. The other one has 1 seed sprout and the other one has 2. So again, like with the tomatoes, I'll go through and select the stronger of the 2 in that roll and snip out the other one. So in a few weeks, these will have their true leaves and they'll be ready to harden off. And harden off is basically setting them out on your patio or in a warm, sunny place outside, can be even on the ground, doesn't have to be on a patio. And I leave them out there in the sun for a few hours every day for about a week. And then they're ready to plant either in a pot or in the garden outside. So the nice thing about the cells in the egg tray is that you can just kind of tease them off and plant the whole cell right into your pot or to your soil in your garden. Same with the pumpkins. The pumpkins are a deep-rooted, very long root plant. And the nice thing about the paper towel roll or the toilet paper roll is that it forces the seed roots to go deep. So that's the other thing, is that because both of these are paper, they'll decompose over time, so they won't or shouldn't affect the growth of your plants. And they'll help keep a little extra moisture around the base of them, so you won't have to water quite as much. But again, you still want to keep them moist while they're growing. Next slide. So here you can see these photos were taken during our Reminiscence Gardening activities. On the left, you can see how easy it is for our good friend in the wheelchair to participate. She could add the soil and sprinkle the seeds and pat the soil down and go back and even do a little watering. Our good garden partner on the right photo here didn't really need a lot of coaching to grab that spray bottle and start spraying those seeds in her container. I think the real key to making this successful is to be sure that you've got all the materials assembled before you get started or before you bring your garden partner to the table. You don't want to be running out to the garage to get the bag of soil or heading off to the sink to get some water. Spread your plastic cloth or your newspaper or whatever you're going to use to protect your surface and set up all your items before you get started. Next slide, please. So as you heard in the video, Reminiscence Gardening is an award-winning program, and we are so happy to say that we work in all areas of San Diego County with these memory care communities that you see listed on your screen. The program has been so well received, and in fact, we hardly talk to anybody in a memory care community that doesn't want us to come and share the gardening experience with their residents. Next slide, please. So if you visit the website, you'll be able to see the activity guides for the activities that we shared with you today, and you can print them off. They are, again, available in 3 different languages: Spanish, English, and Tagalog. And each one is like a recipe. It has your list of materials and step-by-step instructions on how to create your garden in a pot, or conduct a sensory experience, or grow your own microgreens. Next slide, please. That really is the end of the presentation for today. Thank you so much for having us. We really enjoyed being with you and hope you have a wonderful gardening experience in your tabletops.